Welcome to the Leading Conversations podcast, sponsored by the Excel Leadership Network. On each episode, J.D. Pairing will have conversations with church planting pastors and leaders from around the country. You can learn more about how to connect with Excel at the end of this podcast. Let's join J.D. now and listen in on this leading conversation.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Leading Conversations with Excel Leadership Network. Today, our guest leader is the fabulous Jeff Snodgrass from Pasadena, California. Jeff, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about so much fabulous, but it's great to be here.
Jeff, you're amazing. I have a lot of respect for you. So, I usually try to go with the same letter as your last name. So Stupendous Snodgrass. There we go.
There you go.
Hey, I bet it's a nice day in Pasadena today, by the way.
It's absolutely beautiful, to be honest with you. It's high 50s, low 60s, and clear skies after 2 days of rain. So it's beautiful today.
Oh, and clear, I bet.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Great. It's why you live there.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just start out. Tell us about your upbringing, how you came to Christ, what happened as a kid, all of that.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern California, San Gabriel Valley, so East LA area in the valley there, and been here most of my life. The joke with my wife and I is we've tried to get out of here, but the Lord's kept us here the whole time. But grew up in a Christian home, wasn't necessarily a Christian until the end of my senior year, going into college. Made a lot of mistakes before that. People would walk into church and be like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I'm a pastor." And they're like, "You're a what?" And so that was kind of the beginning of my journey stepping into ministry, but had a pretty drastic conversion of coming to the Lord through some of my mistakes. And in about a 2-year period from giving my life to the Lord, realizing the Lord was calling me into ministry, stepped into ministry, and have been in ministry for a couple decades now. And so here I am and seeing just about everything I feel like at this point. I don't know that I want to see more some days, but at the same time, it's definitely been a wild roller coaster, but at the same time have seen a lot of impact for Jesus, and to me that's what matters most.
Well, cool. Well, hey, what was the catalyst for you coming to Christ? How did that happen?
The things I didn't want to become, I became. That's really what it comes down to. Grew up in a Christian home, so it's like I heard about grace, I heard about who Jesus was, and was around church, but it never really became real to me until you hit a rock bottom and realize, oh, this whole grace thing is real. And so embracing that for myself and realizing that helped open the door for who I was as a leader. It really did. When you start to truly experience grace, it really does propel you to be the man or woman that he's called you to be. And in that sense, he helped me become the man that I am, and at the same time, the leader that I now am. And so it's really helped me begin to see the potential that I had and who God's designed me to be, which is a really cool journey.
Now, did you go off to college or anything like that to pursue Christian stuff, or what was that?
I went to Citrus College first, still at that point, because again, I told you about 2 years in, realizing I was going to ministry. So I was doing a junior college thing route for a while, still trying to figure out if I was going to play sports. I was an athlete kind of growing up and had some.
What was your best sport? What's your best sport?
Football. I was a good football player. And so it was still my aspiration was to get healthy. I had broke my ankle at one point and tore all my ligaments, so it kind of set me back. But all that to say, it's just a has-been story. And then out of that's how I really found ministry, actually. And so out of what I thought was a hurdle that ruined my life ended up becoming the open door for something so much greater. Stepped into ministry. But yeah, I went to Azusa Pacific and did my undergrad there in biblical studies, and then went on to get my master's at Fuller Theological Seminary. And it took me a long time, hard time, but did that and graduated years ago from Fuller. So
What was there a particular moment when you felt called to do ministry, or was that a process, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I had a really good mentor in that season, which I mean, I believe that's one of the foundational things of who I became is I had a lot of really good mentors. It was a common denominator in my story, and I had a guy that was kind of walking through life with me, showing me what it looked like, and he was a pastor, and so I was kind of just following his steps, following him as I was ultimately following Christ, and in that journey of watching him do ministry, he came to me one day and said, "Hey, I want to go plant a church in Northern California." And I was really mad at him. Like, how could you leave me? Like, very selfish and very like, what's wrong with you? And it was about 2 weeks later, we were actually at a retreat, and it was on that retreat in one of the times that I was just spending with the Lord praying, and I really did feel a very clear call of, well, the reason why he's leaving is you kind of know what to do now. Now it's time for you to do it, and it's time for you to step into ministry. And so it was one of the few times in my life I heard a very clear call from the Lord. And I could even say audibly at that point of this is the steps I was going to take. And so it was a very clear calling to go into ministry. If I didn't have that clear calling, sometimes I think with some of the difficulty that I have faced in ministry, I don't know that I would have stayed in ministry, because ministry can definitely beat you up if you're not careful. But all that to be said, even if you are careful, it can still beat you up. But the point is, it was out of that I found myself being called to go into ministry.
And then, so you're doing ministry at the time as well, right? And you're on staff of a couple large churches.
Yeah, I'd worked at two large churches to start. I mean, the first one's in Pomona. It's called Purpose Church. It used to formerly be known as Pomona First Baptist, and I could brag about them for a long time. But the lead pastor there, Glenn Gunderson, is just an incredible leader, and truly, he showed me what it was like to have and to be in ministry when it's healthy. And so he gave me a glimpse of behind the scenes of what healthy ministry looked like. And all that to say, man, it was formative to who I am today. And at the same time, man, there are so many stories of watching of like, man, this is incredible, and this is healthy leadership, and those two things can coexist. Whereas a lot of churches try, they're growing, and you look under the hood, and there's some unhealth and some things you don't want to be a part of. But then at the same time, it's also just kind of taught me be a man of integrity, and just continue to be consistent and faithful in that. Obedience is more important than what you want, so just continue to remain obedient to the Lord, and He'll work out your steps. But at the same time, man, there are so many things that I just have such a great respect for Glenn and the impact he had in my life.
Glenn, Glenn's amazing, humble leader. Then you're on staff of another church, and talk about the call to church. I mean, how'd you get involved in church planting? What was that about?
Yeah, I went from Purpose Church to another large church, and had worked at that large church for 10 years. It was a great ride, and there was a lot of cool memories from that church. And so, I mean, that's the church that Julie and I met before I went to Purpose. So it's like I found the Lord there, went and worked at Purpose, then went back there for 10 years. And so another church that was just a incredible part of my journey. But there were highs and lows there, just like there are anywhere. And it was out of that, the last 4 to 6 years there, I had helped them go from single site to multi-site, and so started launching some campuses and kind of developing that model for them. And we had one of the campuses that we had launched was a $7.5 million investment, $1.5 million into renovation. So I mean, you're overseeing a $9 million project for a church. On top of that, having too many direct reports at that time in a large church setting, and so it really began to not just, it wasn't just wearing me out, but I had gotten out of my giftings a little bit, and my giftings of leadership, teaching, and discernment. And specifically, as I kind of got out of my giftings, I was more so just managing projects in that season. And I really just felt the call of like, I need to get back into who I'm called to be and who God has entrusted me to be. And so it was out of that, man, Julie and I started to pray and process, like, okay, what's next for us? Because we just kind of had felt that nudge from the Lord of there's gonna be a next, but we didn't know what it was. And when you fast forward the story, it was an incredible journey to step into the church planting world. And we planted a church 7 years ago now in Pasadena. And so it's been very much a roller coaster as well. But man, there's so many beautiful things that the Lord has done that we're just grateful for.
So you've been there 7 years. Talk a little bit about that roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, we became a NASCAR church plant. What I mean by that is we had stickers from kind of all kinds of networks and all kinds of different people. I think the cool thing about that is we networked to fundraise and to find networks to support us. Man, Julie and I really found a lot of people that believed in us, which was amazing. I mean, there's something just affirming when people get behind you and not just like I believe in you or you can do it or that a boy, and not just the oh you're a good speaker or you can do this, but it was when they started really like putting their time, talent, treasure behind us. I mean, you feel this wave of support that helps propel you forward. I always think about a surfer or someone that's on a bodyboard. Man, that wave is what moves the surfer forward. But that's kind of what it felt like in that season of that affirmation of people putting their time, talent, treasure behind us. It was just this wave of overwhelming support that we loved and we were so grateful for. And some of those relationships that got behind us are still very important to us and that we still do a lot of life and ministry with. And that was a really cool journey to just get started. Plus, I mean, Pasadena, I mean, anyone that's done ministry in Pasadena would identify with Pasadena being a very difficult place to lead a church. And I'm not the person that's like, well, we're the most difficult area in the world. Like, let's be honest, right? JD, I mean, if anybody knows this, you know this. I mean, there's a lot of difficult places, and there are, but there is something unique to Pasadena that adds a level of difficulty. And so, planting a church here, I just believe that there's a spiritual stronghold here. And if this is a place that Satan wants to fight for, to me, it's to have the desire to say, okay, we need to go take that hill for the kingdom, because whatever that strategic purpose is, that Satan doesn't want anything to happen there. Man, what would happen if something incredible happened here? And so that's really that notion of like, hey, we need to go take the hill of Pasadena. And man, when you try to take up enemy territory, it's difficult. Man, there's going to be some attacks. There's going to be some warfare that happens. Man, it's going to leave some trauma. It's going to leave some wounds, and you're going to look back and say, "Dang, did that really just happen?" And so all that to be said, like we've seen incredible highs. I mean, we've in a church of 7 years. We have planted, well, we've helped plant 4 churches. So we've planted 2 down in Mexico, in northern Mexico. We've planted 1 in Guatemala, and then we helped plant a church here in Southern California. And so out of that, I mean, think about it, a church of 7 years helping assist and build. I mean, even the ones in northern Mexico, we actually helped build the church buildings in a sense. And so being a part
I
of
was
that,
down there watching you guys work.
yeah, that's right. You were there watching one of
I
them.
was watching. I was taking the director down there to lunch. That's what I do. I buy
Yeah,
him
sure.
food, and you
You buy
get
people
work.
food. Why I hammer walls together, right?
Yes.
No, it was great though. But I mean, we've seen a lot of things, and we've seen roughly 7 to 10 people go into full-time ministry from our church, and so people that weren't even believers have now stepped into full-time ministry. We've seen countless people come to our church, come to know Jesus, make a decision to follow Jesus and or get baptized, then move out of state, and then begin to find another church that's their local home. And so it's kind of cool to see that we're reaching people that don't know Jesus and getting them plugged into other churches. Sometimes I wish it was our own church that they could stay, but the socioeconomics of Pasadena adds some complexities for families. But we've just seen a lot of fruit in 7 years. But when you're producing a lot of fruit for the kingdom and for Jesus, again, the enemy doesn't like that, and so you kind of put a big old bullseye on your back.
Well, I've seen you go through. I'm trying to think of things that are more difficult, clearly satanic than what happened to you in the last couple of years. Can you talk at all a little bit about that experience and how you even managed to get through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to even answer that in some sense. One, I mean, basically, there's a crisis. Some families disagreed with some things, and we got attacked for it. I mean, that's the summary for it. The reality is there's a lot of things that you look back and you learn from it. But regardless of the learnings or the takeaways, some of the things that really stick out to me from that is even when you get attacked, even when people want to tear you down, even when people want to make up lies about you, regardless of what those are, the reality is are you going to continue to care about your character and attend to your character as opposed to your reputation, right? I mean, you just wrote about this in your new book. Incredible read. Been loving reading that. Excited to give that to some other people. But even as you articulated the quote from John Wooden of the idea of focus on your character, not your reputation, there's truth to that. And not only just focus on your character, meaning don't worry about what other people are saying, just continue to pursue Jesus and make decisions of integrity. I feel like we've done that well, Julie and I. But even beyond that, I think that when you get beat up so bad that it can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, it can cause you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, why, God, why are you allowing this to happen? Or God, why did this happen? Or when you start asking some of those introspective questions and you're at the low of your life, to me, taking the next step is always one of the important things. So I'd have to tell myself, man, just take one more step. Like I can do this, do one more day. Or I would say, man, what can I do today to take care of myself? Right, JD, one of the big conversations right now is mental health, anxiety, all of that stuff. And as much as some of those things are big, hot topics, the reality is a lot of people just don't take care of themselves. And so Julie and I put a lot of really good people around us to help encourage us. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were some lows. There were some days of asking, why in the heck am I doing this and allowing my family to go through this. But at the same time, man, when you've got great counselors and you have great leaders and you have great mentors and you have really, really good friends that sit in the trenches with you, and in all of those people that were investing in us, pointing us to Jesus, you start to realize, man, like doing the right thing to take care of yourself is critically important. And it really does display that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Mm.
If we just try to go and sprint through this, man, you're going to wear yourself out. Um, and so, I mean, it is a stupid analogy I even used this last Sunday, but it's the CrossFit Open right now, which shocker, a pastor talking about CrossFit. Some of you are going to tune out of this, but I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of CrossFit. I just like the gym that I'm in because of decision fatigue. I can walk in and look at the board and see what to do and just get my workout done for the day. But as the CrossFit Opens here, you compete against all these other people. So everyone in the world has an opportunity to go to the CrossFit Super Bowl called the CrossFit Games, right? And what happens is basically they'll post a workout on a Thursday night. Then on a Friday night, you typically do it with your gym and you do that and you rank yourself and you move up to regionals, then to the games. But the workout last week it was like one of those stamina grinder workouts that you just got to hang on. And man, when I was done, you should have seen me, JD. I had like the black floor on my face. I had like stuff stuck all over my shirt. Man, I was just wrecked. And it's just one of those it's one of those workouts that you've just got to hang on and keep pushing through the pain. But that's what ministry is sometimes. There's going to be days that you're tattered, you're beat up, and you've just got to say, okay, just one more rep, just one more rep, just one more rep. And when you're doing that and you're doing the right things to take care of yourself, you'll look back and say, oh, I actually got through that, even though I didn't think I was or I was going to, but I actually got through it. And that's what the last couple of years has kind of looked like.
Well, you've done an amazing job of getting through, just surviving, because you talk about taking shots. The crap you took from the outside probably the worst I've seen. I mean, I've seen tragedies and all sorts of other stuff, but it was legendary. You made it through. I love your analogy of the marathon, not a sprint. Because yesterday morning I did a F3 workout. First time I ever did F3 because it starts at 5:15 in the morning. So I'm out. But my 11-year-old grandson was the leader that day. So I went and we did some warm-up stuff. And then he said, okay, we're just going to mosey over here. So I thought it was going to be a short run. It was not a short run. And my body's like, it is 5:15 in the morning. What are you doing? But I just realized if I knew it was going to be a longer run, I would have handled it a little bit differently. And I think I was able to hide my struggles a little bit. But yeah, ministry's long haul.
One of my friends is a marathon runner. He's a pastor as well. I've ran one marathon, JD, one. It will probably be the only one that I ever run, to be clear. I'm not the athlete or the fitness guy that loves running. I hate running. In fact, at my gym, I'm called the angry runner. I'm a good runner, but I don't like it. But man, I ran one marathon, and you can kind of take that marathon and put it over the marathon, not a sprint. But I've been in ministry for a long time, and the last 2 years was that mile 16 wall that everybody talks about. And that you hit this wall of like, what am I doing? Why am I here? My body's not working. Like, honestly, the last 2 years was that mile 16 wall. And that's what it felt like. It did feel like a wall. And you ask yourself some questions, but you've got to just continue to take one step at a time to continue to push through.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Hey, you've made it through that. What's your vision now for, you've come through that. What's your vision for Pasadena, for Unite? I know you're a visionary.
Yeah, I mean, our church's name is Unite Church. We're in Pasadena, California. The mission of our church is to unite people to God and others. And then at the same time, as we process it and think through that, man, we just want to reach people that don't know Jesus. I mean, that's our heart. I mean, this is a very, I would say, de-churched area as much as opposed to unchurched. There's a lot of people that have walked away from church. And so if our mission is to unite people to a genuine, hope-filled relationship with Jesus and genuine community with others, in other words, in short, uniting people with God and others, our vision is that we want to reach people that don't know Jesus, and then at the same time we want to help people. We want to teach Scripture effectively while helping them embrace the power of prayer. And so just kind of this reaching, teaching, embracing aspect of one of the things that are just markers in our church of things we want to do well. And at the same time, that as we have impact, one of our values actually is this idea of selfless multiplication. That so often in ministry or so often in leadership, you could try to build your kingdom, you could try to do things for yourself. But man, we just want to kind of have an open hand posture of saying, the Lord, Lord, this is yours, not ours. We want to build your kingdom, not ours. And if we reach people here and then send them out, hey, that's a win for the kingdom. And so kind of just living out that selfless multiplication value is a really important part of our church as well. But then at the same time that we're continuing to reach people that don't know Jesus. So that's a little bit of the mission, vision, value stuff.
Cool. Hey, last question, and you've already kind of done some of this, but give us a leadership tip. What's the Jeff Snodgrass leadership tip of the day?
I mean, there's a lot of things that I process. One of the things that I just kind of think through sometimes is, actually this last week even, I got asked to go speak at a leadership conference in a church last minute and stepped in, and I talked about some of the 6 observations about many church leaders. And one of them that I'm really kind of just wrestling with and still watching, because I don't just get to work with church leaders from our church. As you know, I get the opportunity and privilege to walk with other church leaders through a consulting group that I've been a part of for a long time called Growmentum. And as we've done strategic plans and we've walked with different churches, one of the points and learnings that I wrote down a while ago that I just think is true, but I wrote down this idea that subdued optimism will hinder impact as a church leader. And so one of the things I just encourage anyone listening to this, watching this, man, just look at yourself in the mirror. And if you have subdued, if you have optimism that is just being hindered or stopped, you got to really look at yourself and say, man, I've got to continue to remain optimistic. I've got to have that Philippians 4 principle that whatever is true, whatever, like you got to have that optimism of like, you know what, God can do this. I think about even my last 2 years that even in the difficulty, I mean, God allowed me to go through some difficult things, but I'm better on the other end. And then at the same time, there's got to be a reason that I went through it. And if I continue to remain someone that's faithful in following Jesus, there's going to be impact no matter what. And so as our eyes are on Jesus, as we're doing the one more rep, one more step, kind of like I was talking about earlier, man, we've got to remain optimistic that whatever the hill is before us, that we can overcome. Because I think that there's a lot of leaders that have just become pessimistic. I mean, how many times have you sat with a church staff and they're so negative and so sarcastic, and their sarcasm is compound interest with the negativity, and they're just burnt out and they just don't want to admit it. And so there's just level of, man, I want to encourage us as leaders, man. I want to be around people that are optimistic. I want to be with leaders that believe they can climb the hill. I want to be with leaders that say, hey, God can do this. Because if Jesus really did conquer death itself, man, what's to say the hill before us that we can't conquer that? And so to me, I think that's just one of those leadership principles right now that I'm just wrestling with the idea of and encouraging people, let's just continue to be optimistic, because I believe subdued optimism will hinder impact as a church leader.
Great stuff. Great. Well, hey, Jeff, thanks for hanging in there. I got to be with you a couple times during some pretty dark days, and you just kept saying, hey, I'm going to plug away, and God's doing some amazing things. You've come through that. Great things are happening. He's got big plans for you, and I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, and look forward to some more conversation.
God bless.
Thanks for joining the Leading Conversations podcast. We hope that you found it both helpful and encouraging. At Excel Leadership Network, our focus is on the church planter rather than the church. If you'd like to find out more about us, visit our webpage at excelnetwork.org. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. See you next time with another Leading Conversation.